Hire awesome people to begin with, and lead with a mission, I think. I don't actually care about skills, but I care about if you love this work and if you want to work here. That matters way more to me than if you have the skills on paper to do the job. The main thing that I think I do first off is that in the job description that has to be a part of it. Like, you have to push people to write a cover letter just for you, write about this job specifically, and then in the hiring process, I look for that first. I really believe that your cover letter is your work sample, and so I don't actually look at the resumes at all at first. I just read the cover letters. And so the only people that make it to the stage where we actually look at their resume to see if they have the skills are people who've already written a really fantastic letter about what they believe in and why they care about this work and why they want this particular job. And so I think leading with that, it's so easy to get caught up in the sort of checklist of skills that you think you need. But at the end of the day, if you think about your most important, your most productive, your most valuable employees, they aren't necessarily people who just deliver on skills every day. They're people who have embraced the mission with their whole selves and care about that and project that into their work. You know, at Springboard, the first skill I look for is that you're a practicing artist, which I know, people have a lot of different opinions about that, but for us, everybody who works here is a practicing artist, and it's really important that you've lived this life first. And so that's kind of an unconventional skill, but that you've actually made a go of it on your own is really important to me. And then, I look for people actually who've tried a lot of different things, who've been in other sectors or who've worked for different sizes of organizations or in different geographies. People whose resumes indicate to me that they're curious about something. Because, the skills like people who have a bachelor's degree or know how to use, WordPress, that's everyone. Or you can go to a class and learn that after you already work here. So it really is those softer things that matter a lot more to me up front. I think, in some ways that gets easier the longer we go and the larger we become. It becomes kind of self-reinforcing the culture. So it isn't just up to me, it's the whole culture of the organization that kind of, I think we're really clear and really transparent about what it's like to work here from the beginning and even in the interview process. I think the way that we structure the interview process is quite casual, and we give people a tour of the office and they have an opportunity to meet a lot of people who work here. And so that part, I think people know what they're getting into. and I think we're very clear about that working here is about really high expectations and a whole lot of fun, like those two things together. And so I think keeping those things in balance is part of how we retain people, trying to keep people pushed and challenged and also, not drive them off the edge of the cliff, like not push them to burnout. I always trying to balance those things, I think, is a big part of the work. Those other things besides the salary are really, really important to us. And I feel like it's important, because we're an organization that works directly with individual artists and because our staff is individual artists, I feel like part of how we demonstrate our values to our clients and to our funders and to other people is in how we treat our staff. So things like providing full health benefits and dental benefits to our staff, that's a core value. It isn't just an employee retention strategy. This is about demonstrating the value of this work in the world. And so those kinds of things. And then, particularly because we work with a lot of practicing artists on our staff, having the freedom and the flexibility to practice your own work and to see that. I'm always confused when I talk to people in this sector who don't see that as an advantage to their organization. Like if Springboard has a staff member who goes and does a residency for 3 weeks or even a month someplace else, that's awesome for us. And they're working on their own work, but I trust that they love this work enough that they're talking about it and they're making partnerships and they're bringing things back to this work from their own experiences, from their own practice that are really important to us. And so I feel like that's a huge advantage to have people who have connections and commitments out in the world, and you have to be able to support that and kind of build a flexible enough infrastructure that you can let people do those things and then come back to the mothership and bring those ideas and relationships back with them. As we've gotten larger, we've tried to be more intentional about cross-training staff and making sure that we have some backup for people so that that isn't quite as earth-shattering when someone wants to go away for a while. So that's the main thing, is just making sure we have some backup, and then, you know, talking about it far enough in advance that we can plan for it. It really is, I think it's just as simple as that. I totally don't believe that. I think that, you know, it's like fundraising, right? You have to lead with the mission. If you're doing work that is really engaging and really exciting to people, then you're going to be competitive. Just like you'll be competitive with funders, you'll be competitive for people too. So I think, you know, in some ways maybe that's a tough thing to hear, but in some ways, you know, it's an equalizer. People don't want to work for a big company if they don't do good work, and they don't want to work for a small company if they're not doing exciting work, or if they don't feel like there's an opportunity for them to touch the work. I guess maybe that's a better way to say it. I feel like in arts organizations especially, we have this tendency to kind of pull apart the administration and the art piece, and people want to touch the mission. I think that's a big part of why we've been successful at retaining staff is everybody has different jobs. We have all of the normal job titles that you have in any organization, managing director and administrative assistants and program directors, but all of us, 100% of the staff, touch the mission. We all work directly with the people that we work with, and we all have the opportunity to contribute ideas and craft the programming, and I think that's really, I mean, you'd have to ask them, but I think that's what really engages people in the work, and I think that people do feel frustrated if they feel like they get siloed away, or they're kind of the one working on the numbers in the broom closet, and they never get to actually see how that work connects to the mission of the organization or how it connects to the art. I think that is a frustrating place to be, and I think then people do start looking for something else. I really think you can't change people. I think, you know, at a fundamental level, people don't change. And so the strengths they come in with, from a personal perspective, like, you can gain skills, but the things they're interested in, the strengths they come in with, those are the strengths they're going to have the whole time. They're the life of the organization. And so I think you can plan around that, and you can try and support people's assets and you know, guide programming towards where people have strengths. But you can't change that sometimes the organization needs different things, and sometimes they need new things. And so, you know, sometimes you can't change that somebody is sort of stuck in a position where they feel like there isn't a lot of opportunity for growth. Sometimes you can, but a lot of times you can't change the sort of external conditions on the work. I think you have to take risks when you're hiring. I think often taking the risk on the person who's almost but not quite ready is a better bet than taking the risk on than hiring the sure bet. Just because I think that person, then you're going to grow together. It's like a good marriage. So take risks, and then I think let stuff go. I mean, at the end of the day, I think giving people flexibility and more freedom and making it a happy and good place to work, sometimes that's the best work you could do. And so sometimes you just gotta let, it's so important to us, I know, and especially, you know, if you're a founder or director, like it recognize that it isn't everybody's whole entire life, I think is important. I actually think our social media presence kind of contributes to people having a clearer understanding of what it's like to work here. You know, in addition to the regular sort of marketing functions, we post dorky pictures of people in the office, but people also see us, on there or at workshops at 9 o'clock at night or on the weekend. So I think in some ways those digital tools have given people a much bigger and clearer window into what it might be like to work someplace. So I feel like now, because of that presence, people come into the hiring process with a pretty clear idea of what it might be like to be here. And so that's been a really good tool for us. Like everywhere, I think we rely a lot on recommendations and referrals, and I would say about half the time we use an open hiring process, and the other half of the time it's because somebody's been an intern here or they're somebody we've worked with in some other capacity and we're able to bring them onto the staff. I think we've also created a staff where obviously sometimes we have a very specific administrative need and then we go and hire a person for that. But we've also been really lucky to be able to be flexible enough to say, this is an awesome person and we need to figure out how to make a job for them. And so, not every organization has that flexibility, but because of the nature of our mission, we've been able to kind of encompass different people's interests and kind of let people take the organization in directions that we might not have known were the direction we wanted to go in until we saw this awesome person and their work. I feel really strongly that the way that we treat employees, whether it's salaries or benefits or culture, it's part of how we communicate the value of art and artists to the external world. I mean, in our culture, in America, that's how we communicate value, through money and those types of things. So if we're not paying our own employees, if we're martyring ourselves to the cause, then we're communicating something to the external world about how much this work is worth. And so I feel like that's been a very freeing idea for me and for our board, I think, that it isn't about, can we afford to spend this money on administration? But it's all about how do we support our mission and communicate the value of our mission. And so I think that frame has been really useful for us, and I feel really strongly about that.